Welcome to the Limitless Ladies Network, a women's holistic wellness podcast where our mission is to help women build holistic self-care. The following disclaimer applies to all episodes and content shared on this show. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Limitless Ladies Network or its affiliates. The information and advice provided on this podcast are for general educational purposes only and should not be considered as professional medical, nutritional, or therapeutic advice. The content shared on this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or health condition. Listeners are advised to consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to their diet, lifestyle, or health routine. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are aware of the limitations and potential risks associated with the information and advice shared on this show. You release and hold harmless Limitless Ladies Network, its hosts, guests, and affiliates from any liability for any damages, losses, or injuries that may result from the use of the information and advice provided on this podcast. Hi, I wanted to share a personal story of my own regarding stress, because it seems that I find a lot of people are undergoing a lot of stress these days, and work-life balance is very out of balance. So my story takes place 10 years ago, when I literally just hit a wall of stress one day and I collapsed. I can remember the exact moment that it happened, just as if it were yesterday. In the middle of my morning routine of taking a shower, I was washing my hair, closed my eyes, and thought of this one particular person that was really toxic in my life at that time. The next thing I knew, I woke up with a massive headache and I was in between the toilet and the wall. Kind of a shocker, but I was also under a lot of stress at that time. I was a single mom of two young toddlers. I was working to rebuild a foreclosed home that needed an awful lot of work. And I was working 10 to 12-hour days from home with occasional international travel sprinkled here and there, and struggling with multiple toxic relationships at that time as well. Top it off with a back-to-back case of a lice infestation that hit our house pretty hard. And that just literally threw me over the edge, and it was too much for me to handle. So although I thought I was in really good shape, I was exercising and strength training 3 times a week. I was very active taking care of my house and my family. And I also thought I was eating pretty healthy for the most part. Although mainly when the kids were there, I made sure we had good meals. But then on the weeks or times that they were not with me, then my normal routine was a little bit off. I worked more hours. I didn't eat so good. Popcorn and hot wings was a common dinner for me. And sometimes it was a special treat that I'd have both of them in the same night. So no nutritional value there whatsoever, but it was just something that was simple for me to do at the time. I also was having a lot of trouble falling asleep. It seemed like it would take me hours of trying to fall asleep, and then I'd fall asleep finally, and I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a panic attack of either my job or my kids or bills or relationship issues. So I had kind of shrugged off what was happening with the shower, just thinking something had happened and it was just some fluke accident. Well, that episode actually a few weeks later kind of occurred again. This time I was in the middle of church service. We got to the point in the mass where we all had to kneel down and pray, and I closed my eyes, and before I knew it, I woke up sitting next to a stranger. Had no idea where I was at first. Started to panic because my kids were sitting next to me and now they weren't. So that was kind of a shocker. So after that second episode, my mom was like, you really got to get this figured out as to what's happening. So I contacted my primary care doctor. They had referred me over to a neurologist that was local, and I was also having some constant shoulder pain and headaches, obviously, neck pain from the episode. So I contacted my chiropractor to help straighten some of those things out as well. Went to the neurologist, who was actually an arrogant old man. didn't really want to take the time to sit down and talk to me about all the things that were happening in my life. Was really more interested in just getting to the facts. Ordered a quick in-office EEG to see what was happening, and then came back and said, "Yep, you have seizures." And I was like, "What do you mean I'm having seizures? Like I've never had seizures before." I'm like, "I don't know that that's really what the issue is." And he said, "Well, I'm going to put you on some medication. Are you allergic to anything?" And I said, "Yes, I'm allergic to sulfa typically makes me break out in a rash or hives." And he goes, "Well, what I'm going to put you on has sulfa in it, but I want you to take it anyway." Well, I took the prescription anyway, left his office, went to the pharmacy, got it filled, and went home. I took one pill, woke up the very next day, and I had already started feeling my skin itching in one certain spot and saw some rashes starting to appear and thought, okay, called his office right away and said, like I had explained to the doctor, I am allergic to sulfameds and I believe that I'm having an allergic reaction to this. And their office had checked with the doctor very briefly and said, just continue taking it until you come into our office next. I was like, okay. So I then went to the chiropractor, not happy with what the neurologist had suggested, and I explained to the chiropractor what was happening. She was very kind, very passionate, actually asked me some probing questions. She was asking how things were going besides how my ailments were. Was I drinking an awful lot of coffee? Was I sleeping very well, or was I having issues with that? How was my diet? What was I eating? So I truthfully explained to her that I was having a pot of coffee a day in order to stay awake and just to keep on task with my job so that I could make sure that I got things done and, make up for the time that I was not restful. So that was my way of kind of coping. And so then she was like, okay, I'm going to tell you right now that you really do need to quit the coffee. You need to start eating better, and you really should look at doing some meditation or possibly listening to some music at night that has some frequencies that will help you get into a really deep sleep. So I felt that she was super empathetic to me and also suggested that I write down some things in my journal each night just so I could get the craziness out of my head of everything and try to put that aside. All great suggestions and strategies. So I immediately put each one of those into practice that very same night and next day and thereafter. When I went back to the doctors about a week later, he said, "Oh, so how are you feeling?" And I said, "I'm actually starting to feel much better. I haven't had any episodes since I was last here." And he goes, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Well, just keep taking the pills." And I looked at him and said, "No, I really don't want to keep taking these pills because I haven't been on them for the last week because I broke out in a rash, as I explained to your office earlier." And he was like, "Well, I know, but you should just keep taking them." That nearly infuriated me, and I demanded that he refer me to another neurologist that would actually listen to my holistic approach that I was trying to do and someone that would actually hear me out. So he did. He prescribed or referred me to another neurologist at a different hospital further away. So I went to that particular neurologist. This one was a new, younger male neurologist as well, who had agreed that there was some activity, not quite sure whether it was seizures or not. And he also prescribed that I have a 24-hour EEG at home. So that was a little stressful for me as well. I complied, had the EEG, but yet I remained on my holistic plan that I had set for myself. Reduce my caffeine. I was eating healthy meals. I was listening to some soothing music each night before I went to bed. I was doing some journaling that was promoting me to have some deeper sleep. I was still struggling a little bit, but it was getting much better. And I also removed some really toxic people and relationships from my life at that time as best I could. When I returned to the office nearly 6 months later to this new neurologist, for my follow-up appointment, he had said, well, the pills must be working great because you're saying that you're feeling good and you're not having any more episodes. I took the original prescription bottle out of my purse and said, you can count these. There's one pill missing, and it is the original prescription that I received from the last neurologist. And I have not been taking them. I have implemented a holistic plan for myself that consisted of several different things, and I detailed what those new habits were that I created for myself. He simply replied, well, that's all and good, but there is some kind of activity, and I'd really suggest that you continue taking them. I firmly told him at that point that I don't believe in your diagnosis. It is not correct from where I stand. And I never had blackout seizures before. And I haven't had any since. I've reduced my stress and I've improved my sleep. So therefore, it must be that was the true issue. Um, and since I had gone 6 months without having an episode, I told him that I was not going to be leaving his office until he gave me a written clearance that I was okay to return back to my normal activities as I had before. Begrudgingly, he actually gave me that slip because I told him I wasn't going to leave the office until I had it in my hand. So, although I was made to feel like I was losing my mind, that I had a serious lifelong health issue that was going to require some major drugs to be taken, I knew my body and I could actually feel that it was healing and or healed quite a bit from that first and few episodes that I had. Recently, I discovered that there is a theory about this called the polyvagal theory, sorry, about our responses to trauma. The theory goes into how our body's actually nervous system can cope with stressors like shutting down and collapsing. So it went into great detail of three states that the nervous system goes through. There's rest and digest, which is having feelings of being grounded, feeling safe, secure, engaging in really good social connections. The other is fight or flight, which most of us have heard of. It's a pretty primitive reaction to stress that either makes us want to move towards that and fight for it, or we flee from it or fly so that we can get away and into safety. And the other was freeze, an emergency state of mind where you become immobilized, you shut down, or you collapse. Well, most of us have heard of those first two states of stress, but freeze, that state was actually new and enlightening discovery for me. I had finally felt vindicated years and years later, and it all made perfect sense. So I'm just here to tell you that it's really important that you first recognize that there's situations that can activate these stressors in various different stages. And the key is to become more aware of your body's signals. Upset stomach, heightened frustration, anger, negative self-talk. By identifying the physical and the mental sensations of the body, I became more adept at understanding what my body and my mind needed when dealing with certain stressors. So, what are some ways that we can help to reduce stress on our vagus nervous system and kind of get it more cohesive? There are 9 simple habits that I have found that you can initiate to create this state of calm and promote a stable inner peace. 1, exercise. Everybody needs to get up and move. We've all heard that it, releases those great endorphins, makes us happy. So exercise is really important for a lot of things, but yes, it also stimulates that vagus nerve. Singing is another. Who doesn't love to sing in the shower or sing in the car? So good to do that. It actually interacts with something within your throat that goes through for your vagus nervous system. Laughing is another. So comedy shows, funny movies, laughing with your friends, all great things to do. That also ties into social connections. Social connections are really important, not just for the mental state, but for your physical body as well, because they are all connected. And that is one of the reasons why I created this Limitless Ladies Network, so that there can be some really close connections with any ladies within this network, or just bringing people together so that we can all share stories, we can all laugh, we can all communicate with each other and just enjoy each other's company and be there to support each other. A few other options are using cold water. So sometimes if you might feel where you're getting flush and that frustration is building up, cold water can be a helpful tool to use where you can just splash some cold water on your face and that will help to regulate that vagus nerve. Breath work is also a good tool to use where you can sit and it's not very invasive, I should say, or obvious of what you're doing in case you're worried about that, because you can just literally sit there and just concentrate on your breath, breathing in and breathing out. And you can feel your shoulders relax. There's box breathing and different techniques that you can use, but breath work is really something that's a great tool to use. Meditation is something that I've incorporated on a daily basis. And as most of us know, there are several different chakras within the body, going from the crown all the way down. And they connect. So they go through all the major chakras of the body, also all through a lot of the organs of the body. So it helps to make them calm and relaxed. So the moral to the story is that our bodies are really meant to heal. We all possess the power to control our physical and mental state. We just need to listen to our bodies and use the tools that we have that are going to resonate with you the most and connect with us.